Either you're in measure or you're not. Once measure is crossed, just think of it as a big, huge pond with a huge bloody shark holding its mouth up right here. Once you step into that range or that measure, you're both in danger. Both of you can die. And you must treat it so. And so when you step into that measure, you must feel the danger and understand that there's a threat all the way in. Once you've come up to that person and you can't go forward anymore, closed measure, you can't go forward. That's it. So either you're in it or you're not. You can reach them or you can't. And so when Fiore or Talhofer or Palaskal or any of the masters were talking about measure, they were talking about, can you touch them with the sword or can you not? And that's exactly how every master has described it in history. The cool thing about the SCA is for 40 plus years, we've been developing through practical activity what the masters had said 800 years ago. And the great thing about it is a lot of things that we see that we developed over the years with axe handles and carpet wood and carpet armor and Freon cans of trial and error, Talhofer said 800 years ago. Now, some of it doesn't translate, but a lot of it does. And so what we can do is we can take those concepts and have validation with them. We know that they worked for warriors in the past. And we can take that idea of, okay, this is a concept that is solid, it's used, and it's progressed. And we're the progression, right? There's been a dead link from 1500 till now. But now that link is being revised again. And our job, our hope, and really our responsibility is to progress that even farther. On a side note of this, we have to progress it farther. Because if we don't, we will die. The Western martial arts community is out there and they're hitting the books. They're hitting the books very hard. And they're drawing people away from a combat system that has been working for 40 plus years from us. Because, well, they can hold up a book, Talhofer. See, they did it there, we did it with this. We have yet to do that. So on my own personal crusade, look that stuff up. Be knowledgeable, right? Know who Fiore is, know who Talhofer is. And look for those similarities if you can talk about intelligence. Because really, that's what it's going to come down to. We have a lot to compete with. We have a lot of World of Warcraft people out there. We have a lot of kids out there that can go out and play with quote-unquote real swords or LARPing, fireball. And resist, right. I can't add that fast. I watched that LARP thing, right, where they, 6, 5, 6, a bass player. I can't add that fast. I could never play that game. So, but there's a lot of competition out there, and we have to keep our art valid. And part of the way we can keep our art valid is by being able to articulate it well. Why do you do this? Well, because he did that. Why do you do this? Well, because these solid basics work. And they work not only in what we do, but they work in a practical fight, they work in practical self-defense, they work in practicality for everyday use. And that's something that's very important that we can also talk about. So, we talk about measure and the fight. And we have to calculate, when we're looking at measure, our distance between our opponent and ourselves. There's lots of things that we'll do when we're in measure that a lot of people don't even think about when we start off. Alright? So, let's see. Who's got one shield? One of those heaters.
They're yours.
Yeah, where's Tim? Sir, would you grab one of your shields?
Sure.
Thank you. So, when we look at fighters, nobody make fun of my large, huge heater shield, okay? When we look at measure and we look at the distance between our opponents and ourselves, one of the first things that we do when we walk into measure is we'll change our feet. Alright? We'll stand out. I know. I'm not tall, so this is big. So if he's on guard here, and I'm at the edge of measure, I can't reach him and he can't reach me. Great. No harm, no foul. I can bounce around, do all my thing, be in my stance, have a great time. But once I get into here, things change. Once I get into here, things change. Any fighter in any martial art knows that the closer you get, the closer the angles are, the closer things change. So, one of the things that we see a lot is we'll stay in this position. But the first target he sees is this and this. So, as a lot of fighters, what do we do naturally? We'll take that target away. But that's something that we have to indicate. And it's something that we have to talk about and replicate why we're doing it. All right? The two things happen when we switch our feet. We take this first target away, and we get closer to them because now my shoulders are closer. So I have more reach. The edge of measure, I'm fine, you can't touch it. But once I close and get into measure, now you can hit it. And every time I take a step, I'm going closer and closer into standing. Because of that, a lot of times people will switch. They'll switch their feet here because that part is so easy to hit. Because of that, we have to adjust what we're doing footwork-wise. How do I step? How do I move? Do I ever cross my feet? The answer is no. And how do I work around what he's doing? So before we ever get to what the shield's doing, we have to look at all the spaces and how all the lines will change. Now, he's a little taller than I am, but not as much that it's going to make too much of a difference as I get into it. But you get somebody like, Quebec, who's this tall. The closer I get to him, the worse it is for me. Because he's got the high line. He's always got the high angle against me. So the closer I get to that fighter, the more danger the top of my head is in. The more danger this high line is in. So do I ever want to fight him here? No. I want to fight him here. Some people say, well, then you're out of range. No. You're just changing the angle. That's all. You're just changing the angle so you can cut it down and make it shorter. So then you can fight properly. Right? Especially when Quebec's on his knees, I almost look at my eyes. It's really disconcerting. So when we do something like that, before we ever get into that measure, we have to figure out why we're going into it. And we have to look very, very carefully. Because what do we do? All right, thank you very much. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Whack, 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 whack. And then somebody kind of dies at some point. A little? Yeah. Right? I get in trouble for saying this all the time, but there's a difference. We're using a sword, a blade that's meant to hit on the sweet spot. Everybody knows what the sweet spot is, right? It's meant to hit on the sweet spot. Not near the basket, not at the very tip, but about 3 to 4 inches down from it. All right? Harmonic balance in a blade is built to strike right there. Swords are not slicing weapons. They're hacking weapons. They're made from my 3 favorite words: blunt force trauma. And because of that, you have to be in the proper position to strike into that position every single time. It is, here's the part that I get in trouble for all the time, the difference between walking up and being knightly good and being pinata good. Are you just swinging a stick around to hit something hoping candy's going to fall out? Or are you actually executing what you're striking? So when you get somebody out there flopping with the sword, flat, 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 they say, how was that? Pinata would have done. Other than that, you couldn't kill a Norm. Oops. It's the truth. We have to act as swordsmen. And to do that, we have to be able to position ourselves in measure. Distance isn't just about how far or how close I can get to my opponent. It's about how I can position myself in the best place to get the best angle to hit the sweet spot of the sword. That's extremely important to look at. And because of that, we have to look at a system